Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Jayasree, and you're listening to TALRadio powered by Touch a Life Foundation. As a part of providing you with inspiring and informative content, today we have Kyra Cavanaugh, President of 15B Wellbeing, a company dedicated towards creating learning experiences for leading corporations, workplaces, teams, groups, and individuals, because they believe that no one should sacrifice well being for performance. In today's interview, we are going to focus on how one can be the leader of their own, especially women. Without any further ado, let's welcome Kyra Cavanaugh onto our show. Hello, Kyra. Welcome back to Tal Radio, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be with you.
Thank you. To get started, what does it mean to be a leader of your own, particularly as a woman?
I love this question. I spend a lot of the workshops that I do with leaders really contemplating and embracing what this means. For me, it means realizing that you're special. There is no one else in the world that is you. No one else thinks exactly like you, speaks exactly like you, dreams exactly like you, executes and does things in the special way that you do them. And oftentimes we can feel like we need to compare ourselves. I am at my best, for example, when I am like everyone else. And that, I believe, is a miscalculation or a misunderstanding of our power. In fact, when we're willing to step into our vulnerability and be able to show people through our actions, our words, our thoughts, the uniqueness of who we are, that's when we become the leaders of our own life. And that oftentimes requires courage. It requires showing up differently, speaking differently, doing things differently, trying things that may make you feel different. And in fact, then recognizing those thoughts and recognizing the feelings attached to them and doing them anyway, to me, is what it means to be a leader of your own life.
Absolutely wonderfully said. And this resonates with most of the people around the world because it's important and imperative that we know that we are special and we are definitely one of a kind. And as you have beautifully summed it up, nobody is like you. That's absolutely wonderful. And having said that, how can women overcome societal expectations and stereotypes to assert their autonomy and leadership in their personal and professional lives?
This is the magic question, right? And I fundamentally believe that as women, we're born into this challenge. We're born into understanding and recognizing the systems, family systems, community systems, organizational systems, friendship systems, right? That want to organize our actions, thoughts, feelings in a way that can potentially, depending on the culture, depending on the era, depending on the industry, can make us feel small, can easily feed into that question of, do I matter? And is my life of consequence? So recognizing that depending on where you live, depending on where you work, depending on the way you talk, the way you look, how you identify, all of those things can be obstacles and roadblocks from fully living into our potential. So one, I think it's important to recognize and acknowledge that there are systemic limitations that exist for women. Two, to recognize that those are external to us and that they do not need to influence what you think is possible. And then three, it's really about investing, about going back inside yourself and having a strong relationship, building a strong foundation of confidence, of belief, of faith in yourself, to be able to work within the perceived and actual systems that can easily feel like they're limiting us as women.
Beautifully said again. We definitely need to break the stereotypes and make sure that we are heard and make sure that we are heard to our own selves first. So wonderfully said. So moving on to my next question for you. What are some practical strategies for women to take control of their personal and professional development and become the architects of their own success?
I love your questions. So let's start with personal and then we'll move to professional. So, personally, how do we cultivate that life within ourselves, this internal life? How do we cultivate a belief system of faith, action, discipline around that action, personal accountability? How do we do that? So, we'll talk about it both personally and professionally. Personally, I fundamentally believe we need to take time for ourselves. And sometimes systemically it can be very difficult to find time. If we're caregivers or carers, if we have responsibilities within the home, if we have responsibilities to our family, it can be very, very difficult to feel into, to be able to plan into having time for ourselves. And it is crucial, it's critical. Because when we take that time to ourselves, and those activities are going to be different for each one of us, and I recommend starting them at the beginning of the day. The very first thing you do is you get up and you give yourself time. When we give ourselves time, we do a couple of things. We calm our nervous system. We can learn to observe the thoughts in our head. What are our limiting beliefs? What are the voices of other people that are playing into our brains and influencing how we see ourselves and our potential? We can also build an internal relationship with our hearts. As women, we feel deeply, and depending on where we live, the kind of family, again, the industry we work in, it can be feel very countercultural for us to really feel into our emotion. You may have been told as a child to stop crying, or you may be feel that you have to come across in a particular way to be strong. Instead, when we give ourselves that time and that space, we learn the beautiful inner workings of our hearts. We learn how deeply we feel, what kinds of emotions come easy for us, and which ones are more difficult. And then we also take time to care for our bodies. We nourish ourselves. We give ourselves the energy and the strength to believe that or to create the energy that we need to live into our big plans, our full potential. The other thing about spending time with our body is we learn to trust the wisdom of our own body. As women, there can be so many messages outside the external world that tell us how we should dress, what our body shape should be, how much we should say, how little we should say, etc., etc., etc. So the more we cultivate that time, that quiet, that space for ourselves, the more we see our body as beautiful, as the vessel we live within, so that on this earth we can manifest what we're here to manifest, to do, to achieve, to express in this world. And I'm happy to go into the professional side if you'd like as well.
Wonderfully said. Do you want to take a little more deeper insight for the professional side?
Sure, I'd love to. So from a professional side, again, I think it's very important to recognize there's an internal component and an external component. So the internal component is, what is it that you deeply desire to do and to express professionally in this world? We all have different brains. We all have different bodies. We have different levels of mobility, different ways of thinking, and of course, our feelings. So what do you feel called to bring to the world? What do you just love to do, love to work on, love to create that you want to bring into the world? There are professional opportunities to do whatever it is that you come up with as answers to the question. And certainly entrepreneurship is just continues to grow and grow. So even if you can't find opportunities within societal structures or industry structures, you can certainly be creating and manifesting for yourself as an entrepreneur. Then the external piece, where are the opportunities? For some of us, the things that we want to do, there's a very clear structure. If I wanted to be a veterinarian and I wanted to care for animals, there's a very specific academic path I need to pursue. There are particular ways to open an animal hospital, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if what you want to do and be and create professionally in the world has a path, it's important that you educate yourself on that path, that you work to understand how you could fit and create a path for yourself there. If you don't see that path, never fear, because actually, if you don't see a path that's obvious for you, then you're going to have to pioneer a path. And that inner work that you've been doing will help you build the strength, the courage, find the words, be able to express yourself. And even if you're forging your own path, there are others who have also pioneered and forged paths before you. And so again, it's important to not do this alone, but get out there and understand what are the systems, support systems, funding mechanisms, etc., that can help you bring your dream to life professionally, even if you don't see that obvious external structure. Don't be swayed by that. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. And sometimes doing it means starting very slowly and very quietly and building your expertise and growing when no one's paying any attention. And I know as a serial entrepreneur, that can be lonely and that can feel a whole bunch of things. But I encourage you to try and to believe in yourself. That's where that internal practice supports the professional growth.
Wonderfully said. I am just in awe listening to you explain all of this, is because as a woman, this is very, very normal to have a self-doubt and, the self-blame, the guilt, and everything that we take onto ourselves, trying to do everything on our own. And, if you don't excel, then you're a bad woman or a bad sister, bad mother, whatever that could be. And it's actually important to accept yourself, and you don't really have to endure everything alone on your own, as you have just said. That the inner engineering is something that will definitely bring you out of the chaos and make life more clearer and give you a better solution to the problems. So I absolutely love the way you have taken that approach. So thank you so much for explaining that in detail. Wonderful. Moving on. In what ways can women navigate challenges and setbacks on their journey to self-leadership?
I love what you said. It's so easy for us to harm ourselves, especially when there are challenges. It's so easy to go to that harming place in our thoughts, degrading our potential, undermining our ideas. And it's easy to betray our hearts, to know that we're feeling something, but be hesitant or afraid to actually express what we're feeling. And that creates this cycle where we look for external validation, we look for open doors professionally where people are going to invite us in. We'll sit and wait, as the question suggests, for the right time. We wait to be granted permission. And I don't know about you, but all the while there's all this churning inside. Because when we're trying to be and act and show up in the way that we think we're supposed to, we often undermine that churning heart, that deep, deep belief that you feel when you know no one's listening, no one's paying attention, you're by yourself in the safety of your thoughts. And it can create this dissonance, this challenge between the supposed to and the want to. And so when we face those challenges, it's very emotional for me. I cannot express enough. I cannot invite enough. I cannot welcome you enough to keep coming back to yourself. Because you are beautiful, you are possible, you are everything. The whole world sits inside of your heart. And when we can really feel into, contemplate, live from that, then those challenges don't matter. That's where we start to feel fearless. That's when we fully come into our own and say, you know what? I may be misunderstood. Maybe no one's inviting me, but I am not a victim and I am not a martyr. And I am going to do everything to live in my integrity and my alignment with my beautiful heart and my amazing brain and my incredible body. As women, we have to keep coming back to reminding ourselves of our beauty and our strength and our value and our worth. Nothing is going to stand in my way. Now, that doesn't mean that we all end up fulfilling our dreams in the way that we thought they would be fulfilled when we set out. Life doesn't work that way. Life will give us challenges and gifts and funny things and terrible tragedies all along the way. But if we know we're acting with that intention, then we'll handle whatever challenges are coming our way with grace, with peace, with compassion for ourselves and the people around us.
Beautiful, Kyra. Wonderful, wonderful. And it's, as you just mentioned, it's important to feel safe in our own skin. It's important to feel accepted in our own skin, for us at least. That's the least we can do for ourselves. And beautifully said. But again, there are a lot of women for whom it's actually difficult to think that way, for whom it's actually, they get lost in that, daily, what do you call it? The cycle, to keep it a bit simple, the daily cycle, they just get lost in it, that they need somebody, to pat them and to tell them, this is not right and this is right. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're destined to be. Things like that, that kind of boosts the energy and that kind of gives you that confidence that you have lost in you, trying to build up that strength in you. So I truly believe that mentorship and support, sisterhood, these are extremely important. And what do you say about that? What role does mentorship and support networks play in empowering women to take ownership of their lives and pursue their goals?
I just love that. Can you imagine? I mean, what immediately comes to mind is, can you imagine if there were a woman in your life, and I sure hope there is, who no matter what you say, no matter how low you feel, no matter how stressed, anxious, depressed, whatever it is that you're experiencing right now, that there is another woman walking beside you who believes in you, who whispers sweet, soothing words into your ear, who hugs you and holds you when you want to cry or when you want to give up, and who holds your hand and walks with you knowing how fierce and powerful you are. That's a job only another woman can do. And yes, we love all of the people in our lives, no matter how they identify. Everybody plays a beautiful role in our lives, sometimes a challenging role, Sometimes a role that can be very, very difficult. Let's be honest, right? And yet, I love the way you said that there are opportunities for us, woman to woman, to understand, to say without saying, without even using words, to bear witness to each other's pain and our struggles and our challenges, to be role models for each other, so that even if I don't know exactly all of the challenges you've been through, I see where you are today. And I trust that if you can do it, I can do it too. And then there's the very practical aspect of support networks, which is to help remind us who we are, to be proactive instead of reacting, like you were saying in the daily cycle of life. It gets so easy to just be reacting, 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 that we can start to lose our balance, lose our center, and lose our focus and our goal. And women in networks, mentors, supporters can help us get back on that track. And then, oh my gosh, isn't it so much easier when we can learn from others? When people will share our skills, share their skills and their resources. I have friends who will send me podcasts or recommend books or invite me to a party where I might be shy to go, where I might meet another professional or a potential client. So, yes, it's really easy to think that being strong and being smart and being ambitious and being driven means that we have to go it alone, that we have to do this by ourselves. I've been of that mindset for so much of my career. And yet, when I stop and I actually do invest the time, which you have to do because otherwise the cycle just keeps going, then we're just reacting and doing our best. When we're willing to invest that time in those mentoring circles, those support, sponsorship, whatever it looks like for you with other women, then you're really investing in yourself. It's not a nice to have luxury social kind of extra. It actually can be core and foundational. And there are so many groups of women out there that are dedicated to supporting and helping each other, no matter your industry, no matter what it is that you're trying to achieve. It's just a matter of putting ourselves out there, getting past any sort of resistance or feeling shy, and just being a little vulnerable, saying very specifically, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I could benefit from, and then asking the all ever important, very difficult question, would you help me? Yeah.
Beautiful again, because to be able to ask for help itself needs a lot of courage. And because, as we have just spoken about it, the guilt that comes with it, when you ask for help, it's like, are you not self-sufficient? Are you not able to do this job? Are you not able to get this done? So all of these questions keep pointing at you, and the person who is actually in need of help is worried about the questions more than the problem itself. So to be able to ask for help is definitely courageous, and that is exactly what we need in this day and era. Having understood that, Kyra, women are um, supposed to fulfill a lot of roles in life. And we've read it multiple times on social media here and there that, we only call Earth as Mother Earth because, it's feminine, the energy is feminine and it's creation. And that is how a woman is all about, the creation that's within her. Uh, Having understood about this side of the story of being called a woman, a complete woman at that, we are actually expected to do a lot more. You have multiple roles. If you're just focusing on your personal life, on your family, children, you're called names. You're not professionally driven, you're not working, you're not earning, and you're just eating on your husband's income. That is what you get said. And when you're thriving professionally, now you're said that your personal life is going for a toss. You're not able to give time to your kids. Your family is missing you. This and that. So it's really hard and difficult to balance both at times. No, I'd rather say it's possible, definitely, because we have seen a lot of successful women do that. And when it's time to apply it onto your own life, it suddenly looks like, the biggest, the giantest problem you have ever come across. And we forget the strength that we have. So how do you think that women can balance these various roles and responsibilities they may have while still prioritizing their own personal growth and fulfillment?
When we all figure out the answer to this question, we're going to rule the world. I'm serious. I'm serious, if that's what we want to do. So it's such a beautiful question. And I thank you so much for bringing it up, because that's reality, right? It's
Yes.
reality for so many of us. I have a couple of thoughts. One is, many women, we define ourselves and feel best. Not all women, but if you're listening and you recognize or relate to this, I just share that for many women, we think that the virtue is in giving, caring, taking care of, anticipating, fulfilling, all of the things that we do on a day in, day out basis. And for many of us, myself included, it's easy to feel that I'm good when I'm giving, and for some of us to the point of sacrifice. And when I am not giving, I am bad. So I encourage you to think about, is that the paradigm for you? Now, there are also women, and we're all special and unique, right? We're all somewhere on this continuum. So I'm not being binary or intending to be binary here. There are also women for whom a focus on themselves and getting their needs met first is when they feel best and are less inclined to give of themselves to others, right? So I just share that to give a contrast. And what masters, what nature, what so many traditions teach us is that it is not in the giving or in the receiving that we are whole, but in both the giving and the receiving. So what do I mean by that? If you're someone who defines yourself by giving, giving, giving all day long, doing, and you fall in exhaustion at the end of the day, I invite you to consider that in all of this pressure and the daily responsibilities, to be happy, healthy, whole, able to live that life that you most desire, there's an opportunity to step into receiving, which means asking for help, which means forming coalitions and bonds with others, with repelling or protecting yourself from all of the messages that are telling you that if you do anything else than do, sacrifice, give, you are not fill in the blank. So recognizing that receiving is to be fully whole and to be fully healthy, and ultimately to reach that level of happiness and joy that we seek. And if you're naturally more a person, again, recognizing there's mostly gray, there's mostly people in the middle, right? We have tendencies toward both. But if you tend to protect your resources and not give them freely, then we're also cutting off that energy. And there's this beautiful opportunity to give of ourselves. And there are so many ways to do that. We can give in service to other people. The point being, understanding that we all sit somewhere in this, we can just be asking ourselves daily, have I both given and received? And if the answer today is, no, not really, I mostly gave, didn't receive much, or today, you know what, I took a day to myself and I received all day long and it was glorious. It isn't so much hour by hour, minute by minute, day by day, but it's to be monitoring, again, in that that morning or evening internal practice or midday to ask yourself, how am I doing? Where can I be receiving more? Where can I be giving more? And again, to be doing that in the framework that's right for you. And again, resisting that opportunity to be defined by other people's expectation of those roles.
Wonderfully said. I agree to that point 100% because it's important to give and take both. You cannot serve from an empty cup. We read it always, and such beautiful. You have summed up really beautifully well. Thank you so much, Kyra. It was great talking to you, and I really, really admire the work that you do, and I really hope that there are lot more people who get benefited from your coaching sessions, and make sure that they are leading much more meaningful lives, just the way you are. I'm truly honored to interview you today. Thank you so much for your wonderful time and your energy today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and for asking such insightful questions. I wish everyone listening a very, very beautiful, blessed day.
Thank you. All right. So all our beautiful listeners out there, please make sure that you get this beautiful message given by Kyra, and try to live up to that. So that was Kyra Cavanaugh for you, all of you today. And you're listening to TALRadio, powered by Touch a Life Foundation. This is your host, Jayasree, signing off for today. Stay tuned and keep learning.